Hello, class. My name is Christopher Kusich, and I'll be doing my presentation on the liver. So let's take a look. Right. So here we have an afternoon with the liver. With me, Christopher Kusich, I'll be your guide. Um, and for all those who don't know, this is for my Human Anatomy Physiology 2 project for the end of the semester. So let's get started. The liver is an organ you can count on. I have this page here just to kind of briefly describe what we're going to be going into today. What is the liver? What does it do? Where can we find it? What's it made of? What kind of diseases do we see that are kind of directly related to liver function? And how does the liver help us out in the rest of the other organs of the body? Then I'll be listing my references. All right, so what is the liver? That's arguably probably one of the most important organs in the body. The liver is the largest gland in the body, other than probably like your skin, right? Because your skin is an integumentary gland. It can weigh about 3 pounds in adults. Um, it aids in the digestive system as an accessory organ, and it creates bile, it excretes bilirubin, and it also creates angiotensinogen. So these are just a couple brief things that the liver does. I think it's important to note too that it also helps with the excretion of hormones, cholesterol, and drugs, and out of our body and out of our system. It helps metabolize fats and proteins and carbs. Where can you find the liver? It's found in the upper right quadrant of the abdomen, and so that's the anatomical upper right. So as if you're looking down at the body, and it's inferior to the diaphragm, posterior to the ribs. It's superior to the gallbladder, the spleen, and the stomach. So the liver is made up of lobes that are broken down into lobules, hepatic lobules, which we'll talk about a little bit later what those are made of. But it's supported by ligaments, and these ligaments kind of attach the liver to its location and help with the passage of central veins and hepatic veins and arteries to run through the liver for blood filtration and to get all the toxins and undesired nutrients out. So um, The names of the ligaments are the falciform ligament, the right and left coronary ligaments, the lesser omentum, including the hepatogastric ligament, and the hepatoduodenal ligament. So all of these ligaments kind of are combined together to really secure the liver in its spot because it's very important that it is where it is in order to aid in digestion and filtration. All right. So liver cells and tissues. I'd say the most important liver cell is going to be the hepatocyte, making up about 80% of the liver itself. The hepatocytes produce the bile that is so critical to the part of the liver's function, as well as kind of all the different factors that the liver is capable of handling. Hepatic sinusoids are important low pressure vascular channels that kind of receive the blood from the ends of the hepatic arteries and the portal veins at the periphery of the lobules and then deliver it to the central veins. So these sinusoids are lined with endothelial cells, so that's the important cell type there, and flanked by plates of hepatocytes. So this kind of allows for this kind of filtration. The hepatic sinusoids are kind of the gateways in there. Bile caniculi are where the bile is going to leave from into the portal system um, through their creation after they are created by the hepatocytes. And so the bile caniculi are grooves in between the hepatocytes, and they flow from ductules to ducts. And then eventually to the right and the left hepatic duct, which merges and exits the liver in the common hepatic duct. All these ducts here are going to head towards the gallbladder and form the common bile duct, which flows this. The gallbladder is going to store that bile and flow it into the small intestine to aid in the emulsification of lipids in the small intestine, and that's also going to help with the activation of those harsh stomach acids. Um, the reticuloendothelial cells, Kupffer cells. These cells are critical because they play a major role in infection control and in the fighting of infection in the blood and the body, and the ability of the liver to help with that. And then you will also find bilirubin and bile in the liver, pretty important. Bilirubin is the main pigment that is going to be kind of a waste product produced by the spleen when it's removing old and damaged red blood cells from circulation. These bilirubin is part of the breakdown particles that are sent then to the liver, and it includes protein and iron that needs to be processed. And the bilirubin is going to give bile that green color. So the interesting thing about that is that that green color is then eventually transformed by intestinal bacteria after it meets up in the intestines. This bacteria called stercobilin, and it's a brown pigment that gives the stool a brown color. That was interesting. And in some disease states, we'll talk about later, different signs of disease and such, bile doesn't enter the intestine at all, resulting in a white stool with a high fat content because the intestines aren't equipped to absorb the fats, the lipids, especially if they're not broken down by the bile. So it's pretty crucial in order to get a lot of that essential energy. Bile is pretty important. We'll talk a little bit more about it later. Function of the liver. So we kind of touched on it briefly, but the main three functions are filtration, storage, and production. So we talked a lot about filtration, but we'll just wrap it up kind of here. The important part about filtration with the liver is that blood is going to be coming from the hepatic artery and the hepatic portal vein. It's going to be bringing nutrients, some good and some bad, some excess and some deficient, up to the liver, and it's the liver's job to kind of filter those out from things that we need and things that are harmful to us. And then blood byproducts that are leave through the blood are going to head towards the kidneys to be excreted as urine, whereas byproducts that are going to be getting into this bile are going to be excreted into the stool. So that's kind of wrapping up what we were talking about earlier, this kind of dual function here of a filter. And then it also filters out toxins and gets rid of them via each respective tract. So it's pretty important. One of the major toxins that is important to think about with liver function is alcohol, and ethanol is one of the major toxins in alcohol that we can see in tests. And the ethanol is processed in the liver over time and kind of excreted out of the body, so that we can maintain that back to homeostasis. Storage. So the liver is going to store nutrients that the body can use for later. So vitamins A, D, E, K. K is potassium. That's a very important one as well. Glycogen storage. It stores glycogen, which is crucial for when the body needs that extra energy and you don't have another energy source. The liver is going to play a pretty important role there. Kind of having that storage in place. And then gluconeogenesis was mentioned in one of the articles I referenced here, and I think it's really important. It's the creation of glucose out of the requisite parts, and kind of that kind of really efficient system that kind of picks back together the pieces to create more and more energy. So it's kind of very efficient. So the production house of the liver it creates pretty important nutrients, then proteins the body needs, blood plasma proteins like albumin, which is mentioned at the bottom. So critical. Albumin is part of blood clotting factors and our ability to clot in our blood, and so we can thank the liver for the production of that. Angiotensinogen is intense, right? Is a high blood pressure. It's a high blood pressure nutrient that is kind of evident and really important a byproduct of liver production. Vitamin D can be produced as well as, again, the very important bile. So let's look at bile. It consists of 95% water, bile salts, bilirubin, phospholipid, cholesterol, amino acids, steroids, enzymes, peripherins, vitamins, and heavy metals. So bile is this mixture, this chemical mixture that, I mean, is so critical in digestion, especially of those the fatty foods. And I think bile is really important because, you know, without it, we wouldn't be able to gain any of those nutrients from a lot of different food types, especially in the American diet that's pretty high in fatty foods. Bile is working overtime. So I just thought it was important to have its own slide. Um, yeah, and it also, another cool part about bile is that it really helps with that when we're talking about toxins and ridding the body of toxins. It can latch on to toxins that are there and help rid the body of them. So, how does the liver help us maintain homeostasis? The bile production, which is activated by the fatty chyme in the duodenum, that's going to play a major role in helping us maintain homeostasis and getting those nutrients we need, detoxification of blood, and removal of infection agents. So, you have your Kupffer cells there working as well as the bile, and as well as the liver working at getting rid of toxins in the blood, maintaining sugar levels. I mean, the gluconeogenesis and the glycogen storage are major components of sugar level maintenance, as well as an article I included in there on iron homeostasis and the protein hepcidin, which is produced. This is in the liver. This is a site of where iron levels are kind of maintained, and where we need to make sure we don't rid ourselves of excess, too much iron, and try to keep the right amount, because iron deficiencies can lead to pretty serious illness as well. So if homeostasis is not maintained, the liver will start to head towards failing. And so you'll see, we talked about the white stools and the inability to get that bilirubin in the stool, which is going to affect the color of it as well as the digestion of the fatty contents. Jaundice, which I have a picture of here, the someone's yellow eyes. It's because the bilirubin is building up in the body as those red blood cells are constantly being broken down by the spleen. The bilirubin is going to exceed, the homeostasis. Um, what's to say, thresholds, and you're going to start to see signs of jaundice, which is kind of mid to later stages of progressing towards liver failure. Bleeding and clotting issues, again, because albumin is one of those major clotting factors here that the liver is responsible for. And then infections. With the liver filtering our blood for infectious, particles, it's really important that it's working properly to help prevent us from getting infections. So disease, so failure of the liver to function can be pretty drastic. And I think it's important to kind of mention these different things. These are just a couple, but I thought they were important ones. Jaundice is what we talked about a little bit before. It's literally the failure of the hepatocytes to conjugate and secrete the bilirubin that is building up in excess. And so as the hepatocytes are unable to do that, um, the appropriate mixture of bile is not reaching the small intestine, going into the duodenum, and we're kind of we're out of luck there, and the buildup starts to play a toll on our bodies, and it can lead to acute liver failure. Hepatorenal syndrome is it can tie into encephalopathy in the hepatic system, which is a systemic inflammatory response that can lead to acute liver failure. And the hepatorenal system is kind of directly connected to the relation of the liver and the kidneys. And so without them working together appropriately, it can lead to an imbalance and illness. So hepatitis refers to an inflammatory condition as well of the liver. It's called usually caused by viral infections. Hepatitis A through E. They're all different in how they manifest. Some is an acute manifestation, which means a rapid onset. Some are more chronic. but we get shots for these. They're very dangerous because this inflammatory condition can lead to, lead the liver unable to function and therefore ultimately could fail, which could be deadly to us if we're unable to get rid of toxins and drugs and other negative things in our system. Um, so it can also result in autoimmune hepatitis, which is important to mention because your body begins to make antibodies against your own liver tissue, which is terrifying as your body literally attacks itself. So acute liver failure, which is really heavily referenced just there, it can occur when there's overwhelming hepatocytes death, leading to coagulopathy. Things are starting to clot up. The jaundice is going to show up, and that inflammatory responses can cause multiple organ failure. And when multiple organs start shutting down, your chances starts looking pretty grim. Um, it can occur within days or weeks, and can lead to different types of edema and hypertension. Um, so the really the severity of of that encephalopathy and the time of the onset are going to be indicators of the outcome of that liver failure. So pretty dangerous stuff, and we can really do a lot of damage and get closer to that liver failure by, if we have too much alcohol and we don't give our liver a rest and a chance to kind of recuperate. So lots of different organs kind of working with the liver here. I kind of the two most important ones that I found here were the pancreas and the small intestine. And I actually, I would definitely include the gallbladder as well, right? And I kind of all these organs that are these, you know, especially the gallbladder, the liver, and the pancreas kind of being the accessory part of the digestive system leading in to the small intestine. They kind of work together to maintain homeostasis in the body. And if kind of one of them goes out of whack, the other ones will definitely be affected. Um, so the liver is also involved in processes associated with the kidneys, right? With the excretion of urine and then those toxins and unnecessary and unwanted minerals leaving the body, as well as the blood vessels and angiotensinogen, kind of that effect of the clamping down and that high blood pressure, is all a factor of what's created from the liver. So pretty important. In conclusion, I think the liver is one of the most essential filters of our body, and I think it's so cool that it can kind of do so many things simultaneously, and it helps us maintain homeostasis and achieve optimal digestive outcomes. All right. Thank you very much for your time.